Hello, everybody.
Hi. Yeah, we're doing it from our homes today because we're making it a short day. We're only doing one. We have so many activities. You've got some family stuff going on later today. I've got a party I'm hosting for a buddy who's turning another year.
I
Uh,
know. I was like, wait, how old?
I keep joking that it's much larger. He's not fond of 1 year older every year. He doesn't like his birthdays that way. And I'm like, get over yourself, man.
I
It's gonna
think we should choose. I think we should choose how we do birthdays and how we age. And I'm going over to my mom's. We are going over to my mom's for Passover later. So
yeah.
happy Passover, tribe.
I'm hosting a bunch of people that I don't know, but I'm
You,
excited to know.
I'm really proud of you for pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. You're always the host with the most.
It is so easy, Talia. Truthfully,
So easy being Doug.
I, I don't know that I would say it's easy being Doug, but I would say because it is not my first rodeo. It's my what? Second rodeo.
Second rodeo. I need that t-shirt.
It's a really good one.
It's
Uh,
like if you could read all of you as a story, it's We're Not Fine Second Rodeo.
oh my God, is that ever
That's
pertinent?
really good stuff.
We have
Um,
such a great episode today, by
me
the way.
too. I was just gonna introduce it because we forgot to do it at the beginning.
You know what's interesting, Talia, about these? A lot of people have observed that we're doing shorter episodes, right? So they can kind of be able to finish things on the way to work, or if they have a half hour here and there. And these are so exciting to do because of that in some ways. Like
It's
I
so
feel like,
fun.
yeah, I feel like our topics are good. This one's a really good one.
And
And
it's defensiveness. It's everywhere. We have a mailbag that isn't like, wow, I can't believe that happened. It's just so relatable. We all have defensiveness in our relationships and just kind of looking at the signs of if are we defensive, the effects that defensiveness has on relationships, and how to stop being so defensive. Everyone needs
damn,
this. Damn it.
this is a
It's
really great one.
it's
Um,
not me, it's you.
are you saying that you sometimes get defensive, Talia?
I have grown so much over the last 1,000 years that I've been with Rob, but that's been a big issue for me. And here's the secret is that if you're the one that tends to be more defensive, you don't know you're defensive. You think the other person is unreasonable, sensitive, attacking, not taking responsibility. And so no one is going to click on an episode that says, stop being so defensive, because it doesn't feel like that. It never felt to me like I was being defensive. It felt like I'm just protecting myself against someone who's unreasonably angry at me for their own issues. So it takes a lot of work to look at yourself.
As oh gosh, we're going to get into that a little bit. I also think that, and we'll probably talk about this as we go through this as well. But the reality is, I think it is growth. But I'm also going to say, and I got kind of stumbly about this in some ways, because there are times that people are going after us irrationally
Right.
or upset with us for reasons we may not find valid. And we're going to get into this. But the reality is, if we've hurt somebody's feelings, if we've affected somebody in a negative way, owning that we did, but then making some decisions. Like if we have a friend who's always upset with us for just
Right.
being
Us.
ourselves, which I'm a lot. I'm a lot, as my friends know. I'm sure all of it. What?
You?
No, I'm kind of quiet though. I'm an introvert.
Sometimes I just wish you were more.
That's why. Do you? Because I'm sure I can ramp it up just even a little bit more.
I bet you could. And I've
Great.
seen you ramp it up. I've seen you at like full capacity, and I've seen you a little tired, worn down by life.
Yeah. And then I get enthusiastic about the We're Not Fine podcast.
And then you're back. And then you're peppy. Okay. Doug, I am going to read you this lovely mailbag by someone that we can just so relate to. It's an everyday, all day in most relationships. So tell me
Okay.
what you think about this.
I'm gonna.
It's very sweet. Hey guys, I wanted to share a common issue that happens all the time in my otherwise great relationship. Picture this. My best friend called me yesterday and his girlfriend of a long time broke up with him. He wanted to hang out tonight and go out and have a few beers. How could I say no to that? Super innocent. He wanted to sorry. I didn't think twice about it. Texted my live-in girlfriend after work that I was heading to the bar with Jeff. She was so upset that I made plans with my friends tonight and I with my friend tonight and didn't consult with her first. We live together. We hang out literally all the time. I did not think this was a big deal at all, but apparently she already made plans for us and was going to make it a fun surprise because she assumed I was coming home. She gets so frustrated and told me I'd do whatever I want. I'd never consider her. Of course, I was totally taken aback because I still don't think there was anything wrong with what I did. She hangs out with her friends all the time. I wouldn't care at all if she made plans with them in the spur of the moment. I'm not inconsiderate, you guys. I literally filled her gas tank yesterday, picked stuff up at the store when she asked me to. I think I'm a pretty awesome partner most of the time. I didn't mean to upset her, but I did have valid reasons for why I did what I did. I feel like she's totally overreacting. And when I tried to explain myself to her, she yelled at me and said, "Why are you getting so defensive?" And of course, I snapped back. I'm not being defensive. I'm just explaining what happened. So who's right here? I usually feel 100% convinced. I'm just explaining, I'm just stating facts and sharing my point of view. That's not being defensive, is it? I loved it. I was like, this
I,
is everyone's question. We never think we're being defensive. We think they're overreacting.
I was grimacing for a couple times during this particular mailbag, MALE and MAIL.
You're a mailbag.
I am sometimes. This is what I think about that. I got to tell you, I think one of the basic tenets to being in a relationship is communication, right? So it would have been great had he at least texted her and said, "So, sweetheart, I had a last minute deal. My buddy just got broken up with,
Yeah.
and he's not doing well. I'm planning to go out. Just want to make sure that you know what I'm doing."
Yeah, like the
It's a
check-in would have probably solved for it, but he wasn't thinking about it. Yeah.
wasn't thinking about that, and I'm sorry for your friend and the breakup because those are hard for sure. And you're a good friend for wanting to go out, but I do think you should probably consider the communication piece. There's a point at which even if you're a great guy and you're a great partner, you can still make mistakes, right? I think I'm a pretty good friend. I don't have a partner at the moment, but I'm a pretty good friend, but I sometimes make mistakes. It doesn't mean I'm not a good person. So there was a little defensiveness even in this mailbag about like, I'm a great guy. Don't think that I'm,
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, dude, you still have to take responsibility for doing something that hurt her feelings. The part I did not hear, by the way, too, was I don't know what her plans were. Like she had plans made, but I wonder how big they were. Like, was she going to propose to you? Was she like, I have no idea
Or
what
was it just like I wanted to order Chinese?
or take you to a movie. I don't know. Like if
Right,
it was
that's a
something
good
like
point.
that, I think she's valid in wanting communication about what your plans were, but I think her getting really, really upset and not hearing you out may have been on her part as well. I think you both ended up kind of triggering each other and getting back and forth defensive. I want to make a comment about defensiveness in general. We're going to go over some things about like what does defensiveness generally look like, and then what are ways that we can manage it differently. But I really want to say too, like if this guy was my client and he brought this into his therapy appointment, I would say, let's talk about what your models were for conflict resolution growing up. Like, did your parents or did your elders, if you were raised by grandparents, did anybody in your life as a model for you? Were they defensive about things, your teachers? Or were they gladly able to take their responsibility for something that affected you negatively? If you're a child or adolescent growing up in a home where your emotions are not safely expressed, where you do not feel heard, where sometimes you are punished for speaking up or letting your parents know even like what it is that they're doing that is not working for you, I think kids need to be seen and heard, of course. And we have that old logo or slogan, I guess it is, that, or mantra, children are to be seen and not heard. That's not acceptable. We want to make sure that people express, but if you can't express safely growing up, it's going to be harder for you to kind of just listen and understand in a calm way if you always had to defend yourself. The other thing that I might say before we jump into the guts of this is I think trauma is a factor. I think if you have some traumatic event, and particularly abuse, emotionally, physically, sexually, verbally, growing up, I think the tendency to fight, flight, or freeze, right, are the three responses to a trauma being triggered. I think oftentimes people end up in that fight mode if they have not been able to resolve that as well and understand what their triggers are.
Doug, I think that's beautiful. And I think, I mean, I really think you're right about all of the, it's like, why do we get defensive, right? I mean, why are we feeling attacked? What is our threshold for maybe feeling attacked, right? Why do we feel attacked if someone is saying, you hurt my feelings, I'm disappointed in you, that really upset me, you weren't considerate of me? Why does that even feel like an attack? So the opposite of being defensive is listening with an open heart, which I think is a really good way of thinking about it, because people often will be like, well, what am I supposed to do? Not explain myself, not tell them why I did what I did. What am I supposed to do? Just say sorry every time someone's upset with me? And the reality is, sort of. Like, I mean, it's you're choosing the relationship over being right. We always sort of think we're right. I think, at least, we always sort of think we're right, possibly. But there's a big difference between when someone is hurt by us, upset with us, feeling like that equates to they're saying I'm a bad person. They're trashing my character. They don't understand me. They think I'm a bad guy. And feeling like, wow, I did something. There was a behavior I did that I wasn't aware of that upset them. Yes, it might be a misunderstanding. Maybe if they understood why I did what I did, they wouldn't be so upset. But listening with an open heart, listening to actually understand is the opposite of being defensive. So even asking ourselves, is that what we're doing? And exactly what Doug, what you were saying is like we immediately will think about the way we were in our childhood. And if we had to fight to the death, if it was never okay to admit that we were wrong or admit weakness, or if admitting a mistake meant we are a bad person, like our
Yeah.
parents always knew we were, or we're always this or we're always that, then of course we're going to defend our character.
Yeah.
Um, so Doug and I have pulled together some examples of defensive behavior.
I want to add one more piece.
Oh yeah.
As you were talking, Talia, what came up for me was trust, right? Like if you trust that person you're with, if you have a solid, stable, secure relationship with that person,
Yeah.
it's kind of like you and I. I think if something happened where we hurt each other's feelings or something wasn't going well, which has happened,
Which has happened. We've been married for 20 years.
and we have been
We've worked like we work together. We
we a
podcast
lot.
together.
Like this is a lot. This podcast is a lot, right? Because we process how people respond to it. We throw each other new ideas regularly, but there's trust built up between us. We know that we love each other and we're not going to hurt each
Yes.
other intentionally. And so anything inadvertent can be more easily resolved if there's trust. Whereas if you don't have trust with someone, or again, trauma can kind of create a distrust pretty easily. It's really rough. And some people
Yeah.
are I'm trusting in general. And I got to be honest, going back to this mailbag, he said, I wrote down all the time. He said this happens all the time in his relationship. That triggers me a little bit to think that maybe it's either on his end or her end, or maybe both.
Right.
What is it that's going on? But if it's all the time, there's something deeper going on. That's
Well,
worth.
and what you were mentioning about just benefit of the doubt goes a long way. And if this kind of bickering is something that happens commonly, where you're feeling like your partner just really doesn't understand you, doesn't see you in the best light, doesn't have your
Yeah.
best interest at heart, then you might think that they're attacking or just don't
Yeah.
like you or pointing out all of your flaws, which doesn't feel good at all.
Right. Or if there are, we could keep going on this. I think the other thing that comes up for me is if previous issues are not resolved, if there are
Right.
previous resentments that have not been resolved, I think it's more challenging to have a sane, thoughtful, mindful conversation at that point. So I think if people are ongoingly kind of working on their issues, I think this is going to be easier to listen to the next one. But if it's layered
That's
upon
right.
layered upon layered, and that's why with couples, I oftentimes will say, let's do resentment homework. I want to know everything that's not resolved in your relationship, because we have to get through that in order to start having a clean slate and working on improved, more adaptive communication.
And what I'll think about sometimes with couples is it's not about the content, it's about the process. Like I know we talk about this, but so if you have 20 resentments and you boil it down to the theme of you don't make me feel valued, you don't make me feel validated. You don't make me feel loved or prioritized. Usually there's like a thread there that's like, okay, here are 20 different issues, but they all end up with me feeling dismissed or minimized or, whatever that is. So that can be helpful too, to just be like, okay, there's a theme here. This is a sensitive theme for us. One example of defensive behavior is if you quickly launch into explaining yourself, feeling like you've been completely misunderstood. If you understood that I had to go through this, this, and this, or it was actually because if you didn't do this, I wouldn't have done this, like an explaining, right? It's like, that's actually not, it's an excuse. They're excuses for like, these are reasons why I did the thing and you shouldn't be mad at me.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think this over-explaining thing is interesting because, like, I've worked with people where, like, someone will forget something at the store or forget to bring something to an event or something like this. And if they go into detail about, like, well, it happened this way because of this and this and this, and then I had so many things on my plate, it doesn't fucking matter.
Right. It does. No one cares. Like, no one cares.
The outcome was the same. Number two, making yourself the victim. It's so easy to do that. Like,
yes,
that tit for tat thing where we're immediately like, you're always doing this to me, or you're always blaming me, or you're always trying to get me, or you're always watching for something I'm doing wrong. Like, it's so common to have that experience in situations. And I think if you're constantly saying, you're so mean to me, or you're so critical, or you're so judgmental, you're really not listening and hearing. So stop that.
So stop it. Just stop it. And returning blame back onto the other person. They call that like shame and blame. Like if you feel shame, you're going to tell that person, "Oh yeah, will you?" Right? Or just like what you were saying, well, you're always doing, I wouldn't have had to have done this if you didn't do this. Like somehow it's always the other person's fault that they're upset with you.
Which kind of goes into the next one, which is counter criticizing. Like,
oh yeah, it's like the same.
You didn't do that, right? It's very much the same thing. And that tit for tat that I said before, that's what I would call that. Like, I think when you constantly say, like, you know what, you're right, I did do that, but you did this. Like, that does not help the other person feel heard or understood.
And this next one, I feel like I am so guilty of, which I never would recognize this is what I'm doing, but my husband will tell me, don't dismiss me, right? Because like my reaction, I mean, I never thought it was defensive, but my reaction was like, oh, please. Like, this is upsetting to you? This wouldn't be upsetting to me. Why are you so upset about this? This is so minimal and so stupid, and it wouldn't bother me if you did it. So like, why are you making a big deal? Guess what, guys? That does not go over well.
I'm laughing because
us.
We get some comments about the podcast and things that people don't like.
That's true. I'm like,
I guess we can't do it anymore.
I'm like, I know. Well, there was like a comment of that. I don't know. Was it like, we lost our magic? And I was so mad. And then there was another comment that's just like, why are you guys talking so much about yourselves? Like, get to the point. And instead of being like, that's very valuable feedback, thank you, which you're like, let's incorporate that into, I'm just like giving them the finger. I'm like, I don't need that. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. And I think we're delightful and interesting. So if you don't like us, I don't listen.
So that was one of these defensive areas already.
No, I'm just speaking truth. Okay, I'm still a work in progress.
Another way that defensiveness shows up is derailing the conversation. And that's just blatantly trying to change the subject. Like, you know what? We can't talk about that right now. We've got so much to do in the house. We've got kids to take care of. We've got dinner to make, so we can't talk about it. Like just anything that does not stay in the conversation. And we're going to talk about making sure that it's the right time and the process gets its validity.
That I don't even think I could repeat that. My brain won't even allow it. Validity.
I know, isn't that great? So yeah, there's a guy on Instagram who makes keto stuff, and he always mispronounces something like tortilla
on purpose to be cute or in an embarrassing way.
And I think he gets a lot of crap for it. But anyway, yeah, derailing just is so disrespectful, right? I'm going to add,
Another way to dismiss. Yeah.
I want to, yeah, I want to add one more piece to this. I'm going to add an item that is not on this list that we
Okay.
put together. I'm going to talk about talking over people as well. I know you have one more that you're going to talk about, but
No, that is real.
it's so interesting, Talia. I can totally admit that I was having a discussion with a buddy lately, and I literally just was talking over, and he said, "Do you not respect me at all? Do you not want to hear what I have to say?"
It's
And
just that we're so much righter than they
that's
are.
that's what I said to him. I said, "Well, I'm actually the expert here at communication, so what you're saying has no." That's
Doctor
true.
heal thyself.
That's not true.
That's
Luckily, he does not listen to the podcast. So, um,
Oh, thank God. That's what I think about. I'm like, okay, I could talk about this because they're not listening.
I know.
No, but the last one I was just going to mention is, and we're going to talk about all the caveats, but the idea of like, even if you're not defensive and you are listening to with an open heart, sometimes we'll say, okay, but
Yeah.
da 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 da. And then it also is an immediate dismissal. Are you guys ready for? I mean, how does this affect our relationships? We already know, but we're going to tell you anyway.
Well, that's a simple thing. And then we're going to go into some strategies. The simple reality is anything that we do in a defensive way in our communication disconnects us from our partner, creates more strain, does not make that person feel valid, respected, regarded in all the ways that we probably hope to. So every effort to kind of come towards one another is diminished by getting defensive, and you disconnect intimately from your partner at that point.
That's right. And just like Doug said, it's a rupture. If you guys have heard of Gottman, he and his wife,
Julie,
yeah, what's his name?
John.
John and Julie Gottman, they are amazing, kind of these gurus of couples, therapy, but they'll talk about the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Criticism, contempt, and defensiveness is right up there because it's that rupture. And basically what you're saying is you can't safely express yourself to me because I will make you wrong.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we're going to teach you how not to be, what to do
I like
instead.
the word rupture.
Rupture.
Really intense word. It's a meaty word. Yeah, the first thing, and it's really, really easy, and I do very often, I think always, encourage my couples to do this. Like set aside time that works for both of you to have these discussions. If that person that you need to address something with is walking in from their workday, or you're trying to get ready for dinner, or you're trying to get some homework done, or you're trying to do a podcast, there's all kinds of things that could get in the way of this. But the reality is set aside time. So check in with your partner. Like there's something I want to talk to you about. I just want to clear the air on something, get something through, taken care of for me. Let me know when a good time is for you. And again, that person on the other side of that does need to commit to a time, right? So,
Yeah.
let's try for later tonight. So making sure you both are emotionally available for that conversation is a critical piece. Otherwise, if somebody's already kind of depleted, like
Yeah.
I make jokes about like if I work long days. I like my practice to be long days, as you know. So if I have 8, I can walk in the door and have a conversation. If I have 9, I need some time. If I have 10, do not talk to me tonight.
Yep.
Right? It just doesn't work. So I've really kind of identified what that pattern is for me. And so everybody in my life knows, and my kids know in particular, like dad is in therapy mode at certain times, and you do not want to talk to him at that point because he's not your dad anymore. And I think we tend to, third year of doing this, gee whiz.
Well, and also I'm going to say a caveat to that because that is very real. That like, your partner, when they're crispy, and it's really not a time where you're going to get the best result.
Correct.
However, if the theme is, it is never a good time to bring anything up because it's always about the other person's mood and the other person's capacity. But that's why, Doug, I really loved what you said about like, if you're the one that tends to be a little bit more defensive or has a lower capacity to have those conversations, it's your responsibility to offer up a time where you are going to be more regulated and you can have the conversation. The next one is, it is not that hard to learn how to just start with validating their experience, even if in your soul you feel like they're overreacting, you feel like they don't understand, you feel like they might be wrong. If it's your go-to, your new move, if you take one thing out of today, have it be, I need a new response to every time my partner is upset with me. And it's not going to be eye rolling, sighing, like, here we go again. It's going to be, I'm really sorry. It wasn't in my awareness. Or like whatever it needs to be to validate for just 1 second and don't defend yourself. That's the new goal.
I love it. You know, it's an interesting thing too. We talk about apologies being done right, and I think saying I'm really sorry that when I did that, it affected you that way, and just really owning it in
Yes.
that way. It's a really
And
simple statement. It does not assume guilt on your part. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, as somebody who like grew up allergic to the word I'm sorry for
Yeah.
all sorts of like family of origin reasons, right? So if you can't bring yourself to say I'm sorry when you don't feel sorry, then maybe it's something validating like, okay, that makes sense, or I understand why you might feel that way, or I understand why you're upset, even if you don't. Like, practice, because that's also, as soon as we work on our shame, we are more available for empathy for
Yep.
how the other person might be upset.
100%.
Hundo.
So the third suggestion on how to manage defensiveness is to take responsibility for something. Like, even if you don't think everything that they're concerned with is in an accurate place, take responsibility for something. So yes, you're right. I did not remember to get that from the store, or no, I did not do the dishes in a timely manner, or I did forget to apply for license tabs and you got a ticket for it.
Those are really great examples.
I think they are because they happen.
Yeah,
Because
then they're not that dramatic. It's
yeah,
like life.
right? It is life. So find something that you can take responsibility for, because it does lessen the strain. It lessens the intensity of the moment. And really, what I tell people is we're always looking to kind of get that level of intensity down. We don't want there to be this volatility or this level of strain that's like a 9 or 10 out of 10. We want it to be somewhere lower to like 3 or 4. And that's, we talked about this before. You use yellow, green, red, I think.
I love that. Yeah.
And I use numbers. Like, if you're not at a lower level of intensity, try not to talk about it at that point.
That's right.
Take a moment, walk outside. I've done this a million times as well. Like, I need a breath. And it all depends on who it is, by the way. Like, if the other thing that happens is if the other person is calm, I think it's much more likely that we calm. But if the other
Yes.
person is equally sort of intense and angry and rageful, boy, does that quickly escalate. So
Which happens often because
yeah,
we trigger each other. And if someone being upset with us triggers us,
yeah,
and Doug, what you were saying, like that is such a gift. If you are responsible for regulating yourself and making yourself less intense, it's not your partner's job
yeah,
to tiptoe around you. It's not their job to never bring up anything upsetting. It's not their job. It's your job, if you're upset, to make sure you're
always.
regulated enough to have a real conversation, which most people don't do.
I agree with that. And, it's not easy. I think it's a really tough thing for a lot of people. I think I also want to say that when we do not like that, going back to like the people that we do this with generally love and care for. And so we don't want to hurt them, right? So at our core, I think we feel, and I admit this, I feel really bad if I've hurt somebody's feelings that I love. Like, I
Yeah.
just feel like, what the hell did I do that for? Like, how did I miss that? Or how was I so disregarding for someone that I really care?
You're amazing at that. You're amazing at coming back to a conversation, even when in the moment you were really upset,
Yeah,
coming back and just owning and being very loving. And I know I'm working on you. I feel like our relationship has helped me a lot with that.
that's thank you for that comment. It's interesting though. I sometimes feel like even at my age, I'm like, are you fucking kidding? I've done this for 30 years and I've helped people through things and
Right.
I still can't do it great.
We're still humans. I mean, but that should be inspiring also for people, that don't just give up if you're not like perfect, or if you're not a therapist with a degree. It's like we're all struggling. We all have our own family of origin stuff.
For sure.
Um, we're almost wrapping up, but we have just a few more examples of how to show up differently if you're feeling defensive. So people will ask, like, so what? I just have to say sorry and I can't defend myself. I can't even explain myself. Yes, you absolutely can, but wait until you know your partner feels heard, and you might even want to check in and be like, I completely understand. Do you feel like I understand? Like, is there anything else that you need to hear from me to feel like I understand what you're saying and I'm sorry? And then the second thing you're waiting for to explain yourself is wait till the iron is cool. Wait till the cool light of day when we're not fighting, we're not angry, you're not doing any sort of like a yeah but you, or well I wouldn't have if you. It's just, yes, you could speak your piece, but don't have it be attached to this hot conversation. Wait until your partner feels validated, and then while you're explaining yourself, make sure you're continuing to explain that it's an explanation, not an excuse, that it wasn't in your awareness. You get it and you're so sorry, but this is like, let me explain my train of thought. Let me explain my reasoning or why I thought it was okay.
I like that a lot. I think that's one of the, I have a kind of a three prong to apologies. I'm sorry that when I did this, it made you feel this way is number one. And number two is you do get to own kind of why it is that that's going on for you.
Yep.
And it's really interesting. I think depending on how much work you've done on yourself, the ability to do that differs, right? Like I recently was in a conflict with someone, and I was able to say, you know what? I think we're triggering each other's trauma here, and I think we have a
Yeah.
trauma bond happening. And it was a fascinating conversation, but I know what a trauma bond is because of our work, right? And I'm like, I'm doing something. I am getting triggered for these reasons, and I think I'm triggering this person for those reasons. And how elevated that goes is dependent on
Elevate.
work, right?
Well, and, okay, so this is why it's brilliant, because like what you're doing in that moment is you're taking yourself out of that really heated spot where it's me against you,
Yep.
and you're owning not that you're wrong, you're owning that you're triggered. I think
100%.
that that is like beyond brilliant, and it gives you that moment of pause, takes you out of this like tit for tat, meh, 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 bicker. And it's like, wow, I think there's a dynamic happening. I think I'm triggered and you're triggered. I love it.
Well, and Talia, when you talk about like how you and Rob, your spouse, have kind of gone through these things over the course of time and that it's improved. I mean, there are reasons why, and you already said, in your childhood, I'm sorry's were not common. So
Yeah, that's
you're
right.
diminishing of him or saying, you know what, are you fucking kidding or whatever it is. Like all the ways that you maybe have not responded as adaptively, those are because of things from your past and things,
Right.
are about you. And if we own those and we know what those are, the other thing I want to say, and Talia, I know you know this for yourself as well, because we've talked about this. We don't feel good in that mode. When we're in that mode of like, defensiveness and blaming and shaming and wanting to like, I didn't do that, or I don't know why you're feeling that way, or Jesus Christ, really? Like that's what you're going to go after me for? How stupid is that? I mean, just trying to diminish all those things that we just talked about. Like
That's
we
right.
don't feel good inside. Like that's one of the things that I'm fully aware of is when I go to bed, if I don't feel regulated, if I don't feel calm in my stomach, if I don't feel calm in my body,
Yeah.
like there is something I got to do with this. I'm not just going to let it sit. So
And one thought, it's not really a caveat, but it's just this idea. First of all, everyone needs to learn how to be a little less defensive, right? I mean, like we all need to learn how to own our peace. It doesn't mean we're a bad person. We don't have to say, I'm a good person every time someone's upset with us. But the caveat might be if you look at this and it's a much bigger issue, like all of the horsemen of the apocalypse, right? The like the ignoring, dismissing, stonewalling, or whatever those are, right? The contempt and just like a feeling that your partner doesn't really like you that much in general. That's when couples therapy can really do wonders, because if the issue is like I'm just being me and I'm always upsetting my partner, it either means that you're kind of self-absorbed, you're not reading a room, you're defensive, you're not a fabulous, emotionally intelligent partner or an emotionally mature partner, or maybe it means that everything you do annoys your partner and it's not the greatest fit, or maybe there are some toxic dynamics happening there. So it might be
Sure.
bigger than just that, but you know what? It's always worth a try, because sometimes even after 20 years of this dynamic,
Yeah.
if somebody starts to be non-defensive and listen with an open heart, it can change so much of the toxicity.
So the last thing we were going to suggest to people is just getting more comfortable being wrong sometimes, fault sometimes. And I will say that that is a work in progress for every single human being I know.
Yes.
Because the other way of going, I mean, if someone always says, I'm sorry, that starts to lack genuineness. So you don't want to always assume that you're at fault or always doing something wrong. That's about self-esteem, and that's about inadequacy and unworthiness.
That's right.
But if you sincerely can just get more comfortable as a confident, self-assured, self-aware person and own that you're going to hurt people, and it just happens. It doesn't mean, like, I got to be honest. I mean, Talia, I don't know how you feel about this, but as a professional, if I've said something that offends a client or hurts their feelings in some way, or if I've not paid attention to something that they really needed me to hear differently,
Yeah.
I feel awful. Like,
Yeah, awful.
But it's easy for me to say, I'm sorry, I missed that. Like,
And it's also really easy for me to say in those moments, I cannot tell you how grateful I am that you feel safe enough to share that with me. Which, could you imagine if we said that to our most beloved people and not just our clients?
I try.
We try. I love our mini episodes. It's so much fun, just like pulling out a topic that I think is really relevant. And we love you guys. If you love us as much as we love you, subscribe. We are all over the place. We are on Instagram, Dr. Talia Jackson, and Douglas L. Jensen with an EN. And we are on YouTube, which is fun. You get to see how Doug sometimes forces me to match him. And that's We're Not Fine.
Both have black on, right?
Exactly. Look up We're Not Fine or We're Not Fine podcast. You'll find us. And TikTok, our social media manager, Dig, has some really great videos out there. And she's got a sense of humor, so she always finds it.
And we're not fine.com is where you can not subscribe. But
you could subscribe.
We're not fine.com is where you can give us questions, answers, comments on anything that we're talking about. We would love to hear from you on any future topics that you might suggest for us.
You guys are the best, and we will see you next time in the studio.
Bo show. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Be well.
Bye.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and guests. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. This podcast also does not establish a standard of care, doctor-patient, or client relationship. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website, and because each person is so unique, all listeners are encouraged to connect with counseling and medical professionals for assistance with their personal journey. All people, places, and scenarios mentioned in the podcast have been changed to protect the privacy of those involved.